So here's a Resident Evil game that not only did you probably not play, but it's considered non-canon by Capcom, and most people didn't even know it existed. It's October 22nd, and welcome to another episode of 31 Days with Tofer.A. And this Resident Evil title is very unique, and that's because it was a handheld entry. Yeah, back in 2002, Capcom put out Resident Evil Gaiden for the Game Boy Color. Now, the interesting thing about this game is it was the very first, and I think the only, Resident Evil game to ever be played from a top-down perspective. The game was very interesting. And while the gameplay perspective was from top-down, when you interacted with an enemy, it actually went into first-person mode. It was a very strange game. And the game centers around Leon and Barry. You might know them from previous Resident Evil entries, but unfortunately, the events that happen in this game are in direct opposition of other entries in the series. So Capcom doesn't consider this game canon. The other really interesting thing about Resident Evil Gaiden, it actually came out in 2002, which is after the Game Boy Advance. So by the time this game was released, the Game Boy Color was actually considered last gen, which means copies of this game are very hard to come by. So hard to come by, in fact, I actually don't own a copy of this game. This copy actually belongs to my friends over at Fire and Ice, because this little cartridge is actually very valuable these days. But if you want to check this game out for yourself, you should swing by the Twitch live stream tonight, where I will be playing it on the Chromatic by Mod Retro. And at the very end of the stream, I'm gonna give another one of these away to one of you, just in case you want to get your own copy of Resident Evil Gaiden from Fire and Ice and play it on your brand new Chromatic that you win on tonight's live stream. On Twitch at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, Tofer.A plays. Oh, and we can't forget that promo code trivia of the day. This Resident Evil game was actually not developed by Capcom. In fact, it may have been the first Resident Evil game to be developed outside of a Japanese developer. So, the promo code is simply the name of the European development studio that was in charge of Resident Evil Gaiden. We'll see you tonight.